LeBron James is officially a Philadelphia 76er, and now his new teammates are finally speaking out. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, and others have revealed what they really think about playing alongside him. And some of their reactions might surprise you. Let me catch you up. Friday morning, Tyrese Maxey is in the gym, mid-workout, phone buzzing. He doesn't check it right away. Then he does, and within seconds, he's not lifting anymore. He's screaming into a camera like a man who just won the lottery. That's not an exaggeration. Upon hearing the news of LeBron James's free agency decision, Tyrese Maxey, who was working out at the time, posted a video of himself screaming into the camera, along with comparing himself to longtime college basketball coach John Calipari. His Instagram story caption said it all: "I'm like Coach Cal," alongside several laughing emojis, a nod to the Kentucky coach famous for landing 5-star recruits. Maxey wasn't just excited. He was taking credit, and he'd earned it, because Maxey wasn't reacting to a rumor. He'd been working the phones for weeks. As LeBron James's free agency decision extended into its second week, the Philadelphia 76ers kept up their pursuit of the four-time champion through 3 of their players, with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Jaylen Brown all in communication with James, and Maxey leading the charge. This wasn't a front office cold calling an agent. This was teammates in waiting, personally lobbying one of the greatest players ever to come play with them. Embiid's reaction hit differently. Less scream, more disbelief. Embiid's reaction to getting LeBron one Sixers focused account posted, capturing the big man's expression the moment the news dropped. And Embiid had reasons to be stunned that go back over a decade. This wasn't a fresh pitch. 12 years ago, on July 1, 2014, Embiid made a pitch to James on social media to join the Sixers, writing, "Hey bro, hope you're having a good day. Want to join us in Philly?" Embiid has been recruiting LeBron since he was a rookie who couldn't even stay healthy enough to play. Now, after all those years, he's getting the guy. Jaylen Brown, the newest Sixer himself after a stunning trade, didn't need many words. His reaction was 4 words and a hashtag. According to ESPN's breakdown of the moment, James' new teammate Jaylen Brown immediately made a tweet that said, "Throw the ball up," while Caitlin Clark was in a news conference and reacted live after finding out about the trade. Brown, who'd just been dealt to Philly weeks earlier, was suddenly staring down the idea of playing alongside the guy he used to try to beat in the finals. Then there's VJ Edgecombe, the rookie guard who wasn't even old enough to remember LeBron's rookie year. His response wasn't a statement, it was a meme. VJ Edgecombe must feel like he's living in a simulation after LeBron James announced his next move, and King James shocked the basketball world on Friday when he revealed that he was signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. Specifically, Edgecombe recreated LeBron's famous "can't believe this is my life" meme, a fitting reaction for a 21-year-old who's about to share a locker room with the NBA's all-time scoring leader. And it wasn't just this generation. The old guard weighed in too. According to Yahoo Sports, one of the first people to celebrate the signing was Allen Iverson, who spent 12 seasons playing for the 76ers and establishing himself as the highest scorer for the franchise, and looked genuinely thrilled to see James bring his talent to Philly. When the franchise icon who once carried this team to a finals is publicly hyped, you know the temperature in that city has changed. So how did we get here? How does a team that wasn't even considered a real threat in this sweepstakes end up landing him? The full picture starts with a number that still doesn't sound real for a player of his stature. 2 years, $8 million. LeBron James is heading to the city of brotherly love. The 4-time NBA champion signing with the Philadelphia 76ers on a 2-year, $8 million deal. As ESPN's Shams Charania reported, that's not max money. That's not even close to what a healthy version of him could have commanded elsewhere. He picked the roster over the paycheck. He joins a team with former MVP Joel Embiid, former Finals MVP Jaylen Brown, and 2-time All-Star Tyrese Maxey. Philadelphia became a legit destination for James after it acquired Brown in a stunning trade on July 1, with the 76ers among multiple suitors, including the Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Golden State Warriors, that inquired about James's services after he informed the Los Angeles Lakers that he wasn't returning to the team. This wasn't a slow burn courtship. It was a compressed, chaotic sprint. And Philadelphia's players were the ones running it. Rewind a few weeks before any of the celebration videos, before Edgecombe's meme, before Maxey screamed into his phone camera. Back then, nobody outside the organization believed the 76ers had a real shot. This wasn't Miami, where LeBron has history and comfort. It wasn't Cleveland, where he's a hometown legend who's already gone back once. It wasn't even Golden State, the nostalgia pairing with Steph Curry that had fans buzzing for months. Philadelphia was, by most accounts, an afterthought. One longtime 76ers-focused writer captured the skepticism perfectly before the deal came together, pointing out how far-fetched the idea had always seemed given James's history with the franchise. In 2018, LeBron James did not even attend the free agent meeting his representatives had with the Sixers. So how much of a chance did they really have back then? That history mattered. It's why so few people took the Philadelphia link seriously this time around, even as reporters kept floating the city as a sleeper option. But something changed the moment general manager decisions started reshaping the roster. The turning point wasn't a phone call from an executive, it was a trade. The Sixers' trade for Jaylen Brown certainly helped turn them into a viable contender to secure James's services. And ultimately, it seems James thinks that a move to Philadelphia, and perhaps more importantly, the Eastern Conference in general, will give him a better chance to win another championship at the age of 42 next season. Once Brown was in Philly colors, the pitch stopped being theoretical. That's when the players took over. Front offices make trades, but recruiting a 41-year-old icon required something more personal. And this is where Maxey, Embiid, and Brown stopped being spectators and became closers. Reporting from ESPN's Dave McMenamin, relayed through multiple outlets, laid it out plainly. Embiid, Brown, and Maxey had all been in communication with James during his free agency saga, with Maxey leading the charge, and the recruiting paid off just 10 days later. 10 days. That's how fast a team with almost no history with LeBron turned itself into his final destination. Maxey's role wasn't just about hype videos and screaming into cameras. His connection to James went back years, built quietly during off-season gyms long before this summer's chaos. There was already some familiarity with the 76ers as James spent the last 5 off-seasons working out with Philadelphia star Tyrese Maxey, who helped convince the NBA's all-time leading scorer to join the organization. That's not a relationship built in a few weeks of free agency panic. That's 5 years of sweat equity finally cashing out. Embiid's part of the pitch carried a different kind of weight. It wasn't just persuasion, it was a promise. According to The Athletic's Tony Jones, relayed by Yahoo Sports, Joel Embiid was also a heavy figure in recruiting James, with the 76ers big man keeping in contact with James throughout his unique free agency process and reportedly vowing to get his body in playing shape. That promise matters more than it sounds. Embiid's health has been the single biggest question mark hanging over this entire era of 76ers basketball. And here he was, staking his word on it to lure the league's all-time scorer into the same building. And the numbers behind that concern are brutal. The Sixers were relentless in their pursuit of LeBron James throughout the free agency process, with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown serving as central figures in staying in touch. And Embiid, who has played 39, 19, and 38 games the past 3 seasons, reportedly promised James that he'll do all he can to get his body to a point where he'll be available more often. 3 seasons, barely more than 100 combined games played. That's the health record. LeBron is betting a chunk of his final years on. It wasn't just players either. Coaching mattered here too. Nick Nurse also took part in the recruiting, as he was reportedly the only head coach who spoke to James while he was considering his decision. Think about that for a second. Out of every franchise chasing him, only one coach in the league got a direct conversation. That's how tightly this recruitment was run, and how much trust had already been built inside that building before LeBron ever put pen to paper. Behind it all was Rich Paul, James's longtime agent and the CEO of Clutch Sports, whose client list happens to overlap heavily with the Sixers roster. The Philadelphia Inquirer detailed how deliberate this all was, noting that Paul laid out the framework for what would become James's latest free agency decision, letting the public know that the summer orchestrated by the front office had changed everything. A statement centered on the trade that landed Brown. Paul wasn't just an agent shopping his client. He was the architect connecting the dots between a front office trade and a locker room full of his own clients. And that overlap runs deep. James's agent, Rich Paul of Clutch Sports, which also represents Tyrese Maxey, Sixers head coach Nick Nurse, and multiple Sixers reserves, announced ahead of free agency that James would depart the Los Angeles Lakers. When your agent already represents your point guard and your head coach, the recruitment pitch basically writes itself. It's not a coincidence, it's leverage, built over years, cashed in at exactly the right moment. By the time the ink was drying, the outside world was still trying to process it. One CBS Sports breakdown noted just how unlikely the ranking once looked, pointing out that as recently as this offseason, James was ranked far down the list of plausible destinations, largely because Paul met with the 76ers when James was a free agent in 2018. But James just won't want to gamble the rest of his career on Joel Embiid's health. That's too much of a variable. That quote aged in a hurry. Whatever concerns existed about Embiid's body, they weren't enough to stop this deal from happening. The recruitment won out over the risk. Once the deal was official, the tone in that locker room shifted from campaign mode to celebration, and this is where the reaction stopped being calculated and started being raw. The players who'd spent weeks working the phones finally got to react like fans, because in a lot of ways, that's exactly what they were. Maxi's video wasn't a one-off. It became the defining image of the day, a 25-year-old all-star who just landed the biggest recruit of his life, unable to contain it. Multiple outlets carried the same detail. All-star guard Tyrese Maxey was every Philadelphia 76ers fan after LeBron James announced his decision to join their franchise on Friday. With Maxey, who was in the gym when James dropped the bombshell, sharing a video of himself screaming at the top of his lungs after his workout was interrupted by the news. That's not a scripted statement. That's a guy who'd spent 5 off-seasons building this relationship, finally seeing it pay off in real time. And Maxey's connection to James runs through more than just gym sessions. Tyrese Maxey is a Clutch Sports client who has developed a close relationship with LeBron James, which meant this wasn't some outside recruiting pitch. It was 2 guys with the same agent, the same business orbit, finally landing in the same locker room. When people ask why Maxey led the recruiting push, that shared representation is a big part of the answer. Embiid's reaction carried a different flavor entirely, somewhere between celebration and old business getting settled. Because Embiid has a history with LeBron that goes beyond recruiting pitches, and social media wasted no time dragging it back up. Fans dug up an old post from years earlier when Embiid, taking to social media in the summer of 2018, declared that the Lakers would forever be the team of Magic Johnson and the late Kobe Bryant. A jab clearly aimed at the idea of James building his legacy anywhere other than Philadelphia. Now that same city is home. That old tweet didn't just resurface quietly. It lit up timelines. NBA fans were not amused by Embiid's old comments, with many asserting that LeBron might need to reconsider how much his new teammates really respect him. One fan summed up the situation with a mix of humor and disbelief, joking about James now sharing a locker room with teammates who'd said things about him and about his son in years past. Fans on social media pointed out the irony, with one writing that Philadelphia is gonna need a serious airing of grievances once training camp starts. Jaylen Brown's son had also been part of some old chatter that resurfaced, which only added to the running joke that this super team might need an actual team meeting before it plays a single game together. But none of that seemed to bother the locker room in the moment, because whatever history existed, it was buried under the excitement of landing a player who could change the franchise's ceiling overnight. The full picture of the reaction, when you zoom out, shows a locker room that wasn't split at all. It was unified in disbelief and joy. Yahoo Sports summed up the day's mood cleanly. The excitement wasn't limited to franchise legends. In fact, the entire Sixers core of Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and Tyrese Maxey failed to hold on to their excitement, showing just how thrilled they were to see the NBA's leading scorer join their roster. Whatever history existed between these guys, it took a backseat the moment the deal became real. And it wasn't contained to basketball. Philadelphia's other athletes jumped in almost immediately, treating this less like a roster move and more like a citywide event. Eagles teammates Saquon Barkley and Lane Johnson were especially excited to welcome James to the South Philadelphia sports complex, with Barkley posting a direct invitation for James to join him on the golf course. That invitation wasn't out of nowhere either. Barkley's invitation came 2 weeks after the star running back told reporters his pitch to bring James to the city of brotherly love, saying he thought it was one of the greatest sports towns in the world, and that going out with a bang by bringing a championship to Philadelphia would mean being remembered forever. Barkley had been recruiting too, just from a different locker room down the street. Even outside the city, the reaction spread fast. Golden State's Stephen Curry, whose team had been floated as a nostalgia landing spot for months, offered his own read on how it all played out, telling The Athletic's Marcus Thompson II that unpredictability is just part of free agency now. That's why you don't envision anything until it happens, Curry said. There's a lot of moving parts, That's about as close to a shrug as a superstar can give. Acknowledgement that even the guys competing for James understood how this recruitment had unfolded behind closed doors. Caitlin Clark's reaction, meanwhile, became its own moment, catching her live during a news conference. Caitlin Clark was in a news conference and reacted live after finding out about the trade. And in a separate interview, she made clear she'd been hoping for a different outcome, one that would have put James on the Warriors instead. That reaction, traveling across sports, across leagues, tells you how far. This recruitment story reached beyond just one locker room in Philadelphia. Every 76ers reaction, every scream into the camera video, every meme from Edgecombe, all of it was responding to something LeBron himself put out first. And his own explanation for the move was more personal and more raw than most people expected from a player this many years into his career. He didn't just announce a team, he explained a near retirement. In a lengthy post on social media, James admitted the disclosure that shocked people most wasn't the destination, it was how close he came to walking away entirely. "I thought I was done when the season ended," James wrote. "I wasn't ready to announce it, and I knew I needed some time to really decide, but I was pretty sure I played my last game." That's not the language of a guy chasing a paycheck. That's a guy who genuinely believed his career might already be over. He kept going, explaining the internal conflict that came before this decision, tying it back to comments he'd made publicly right after his season had ended. "I was honest at that last press conference when I said I needed to look at myself and decide if I still love this game." That press conference had been read by fans as a possible farewell at the time. Turns out it was closer to a pause button than an ending. What tipped the scale, in his words, wasn't a bigger contract or a more comfortable situation. It was competition itself. He framed the decision almost like a mission statement for these final years of his career. "This is my last decision. I'm not going for money. I'm not going for family. What am I really playing for at this point? I still want to sacrifice. I still want to work. I still want to grind." Coming from a guy who's already won 4 titles and been an MVP 4 times. That's a striking thing to write down publicly. And he tied a bow on it with a farewell to the city he just left, acknowledging all 3 of his former teams by name before turning the page to Philadelphia. "I believe I can help make the Philadelphia 76ers a championship team, and I am so excited to energize a new fan base and start this incredible journey one last time. Thank you, LA. Miami I'll forever love, and Northeast Ohio will always be home." 3 cities, 3 eras, all closed out in a single paragraph before opening a 4th. The contract terms backed up everything he'd said about motivation over money. The Sixers' talent level convinced James to accept a 2-year, $8 million contract, with a player option for the 2nd season when he might have been able to earn more elsewhere. For a player of his caliber, that's essentially a discount rate, a signal that he picked roster fit and championship odds over maximizing his final paycheck. Insiders close to the deal echoed that read on his motivation. According to reporting relayed through Yahoo Sports, the 76ers trade for Jaylen Brown certainly helped turn them into a viable contender to secure James's services. And ultimately, it seems James thinks that a move to Philadelphia and the Eastern Conference in general will give him a better chance to win another championship at the age of 42 next season. The Eastern Conference, notably thinner at the top than the gauntlet out west, became part of the calculation too. Pennsylvania's governor didn't waste any time capitalizing on the moment either, turning a roster move into a statewide celebration. Pennsylvania Gov. Josh Shapiro even proclaimed Friday as LeBron James Day in the state. That's the scale this signing reached, not just a basketball story, but a full-blown civic moment, with the highest office in the state marking the date. And behind the roster building that made this all possible sat a familiar name in Philadelphia sports circles. New 76ers team president Mike Gansey, an Ohio prep basketball star with James, was just getting started with his summer of surprises once the Brown trade landed. Gansey's own history with James, going back to their days as Ohio high school standouts, added a layer of personal trust to a front office pitch that could have otherwise felt purely transactional. So where does this leave the 76ers now that the noise has died down and the actual work begins? The roster on paper is staggering. The signing now gives Philadelphia a core of James Brown, Edgecombe, Maxey, Joel Embiid. 5 names that together look like a preseason title favorite on any given night. One outlet summed up the shift bluntly. Ultimately, it was the 76ers who got LeBron to not only sign on the dotted line, but do so at a discount. And with Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and now LeBron, the 76ers will surely rank among the preseason favorites to win the finals. But the excitement doesn't erase the one variable that's followed this franchise for years, and that even James's own recruiters admitted out loud. Embiid's health remains the swing factor in everything Philadelphia is building toward. One analysis put it plainly: their ceiling depends on the health of Joel Embiid, something that has not been able to be counted on. That's not a hot take. That's the same concern that nearly talked James out of this pairing years earlier, and it hasn't disappeared just because he signed. Even within Philadelphia's own coverage, there's an acknowledgement that adding a fourth-time champion doesn't automatically solve that problem. A piece from Liberty Ballers framed it directly, noting that even with LeBron James in town, Joel Embiid will determine how far these Sixers can go. The recruitment is finished. The harder part, staying on the floor together, building chemistry in real time, translating hype into playoff wins, is only just starting. There's also the matter of everything that got stirred up along the way. Old tweets, old jabs, a rookie's meme, a legend's blessing. All of it now has to coexist in one locker room for the better part of a season. Whatever tension existed on social media before the ink dried seems to have dissolved the moment the deal became official. But chemistry built under real pressure, in real games, is a different test than chemistry built in a group chat during free agency. What's clear is that this wasn't a front office simply writing a check. This was a locker room. Maxey screaming into his phone, Embiid trading old jokes for a promise about his body, Brown throwing the ball up, Edgecombe living out a meme in real time that pulled off something almost nobody outside their building believed was possible a month ago. The Sixers became a legitimate threat for James after trading for Jaylen Brown, and the pitch made by the front office was enough to lure James to Philadelphia for the final chapter of his career. Whether that final chapter ends with a championship banner or another round of health-related what-ifs, one thing is already true: the players did their part. They picked up the phone, they made the calls, they showed up in the group chats and the workouts, and they got their guy. Philadelphia hasn't celebrated like this in decades. And for a franchise defined for years by close calls and what could have been, the fact that this actually happened, that the recruitment actually worked, might be the biggest statement any of them have made yet. Now it's on the floor this fall to see if the locker room's excitement translates into the banner they've been chasing since 1983.